بسم الله والحمد لله ونصلي ونسلم على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وأصلح لنا شأننا كله ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين. So to continue with where we left off, we are still in the hadith of the Ubadah ibn al-Samit radiyallahu anhu, the statement of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, من شهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وأن عيسى عبد الله ورسوله وكلمته ألقاها إلى مريم وروح منه والجنة حق والنار حق أدخله الله الجنة على ما كان من العمل أخرجه. Then we reach the statement of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَالْجَنَّةَ حَقٌّ وَالنَّارَ حَقٌّ. So Shaykh Fawzan, hafidhahullah, he mentioned, وَالْجَنَّةَ حَقٌّ وَالنَّارَ حَقٌّ, أي شهد أن الجنة والنار اللتين أخبر الله عنهما في كتابه ثابتتان لا شك فيهما. نعم, so just as a quick point, then who can tell me then why is al-Jannah and an-Nar, why are they mansoob with a fatha? So in the statement, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, so when we see, as we keep saying, ahsant, because of anna, because of the word anna, wa anna Isa. So we know anna is من أخوات إن تنصب الاسم وترفع الخبر. So as we keep saying, even in the Arabic lessons, that the asl that we know of a noun, that it always ends with either one dhamma or two dhammas, or it ends with two dhammas. And that whenever it changes from two dhammas to one dhamma, there must be a reason. And if it changes from a fatha or from a dhamma to a fatha or a kasra, then there must be something that came before it which changed it from a dhamma to a fatha or a kasra. So we look back to see, why has the word changed? What has caused the word, the noun, what has caused it to change from a dhamma to a kasra? So here we know, وَالْجَنَّةَ وَالنَّارَ, they are mansoob, and the origin of them is that they should be marfu'. So we look back, so we find that the word anna is the cause, because we're still talking that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, man shahida, that whoever bears witness, and then we come to the statement wa anna. So we're still talking about whoever bears witness to all of these characteristics of Isa ibn Maryam. And then he goes on to say wal jannata. So the waw is waw al-atf. So we're still talking about whoever bears witness. Wal jannah, ay man shahida anna al jannata haqqun. So wal jannata haqqun, that the paradise is true and real. وَالنَّارُ حَقٌّ, and likewise the fire is true and it is real. So he says A, meaning that he bears witness that paradise, Jannah, وَالنَّارُ اللَّتَيْنِ. So اللَّتَيْنِ is mansoob, marfu' or majroor. Who can tell me? So we know اللتين is اسم موصول and it is مثنى. مثنى. As we have الذي, which is mufrad, then we have اللذان, which is مثنى, and then obviously الذين, which is نعم. So so اللذان, we will just quickly go through it. So مثنى علامة رفعه is what? The مثنى, when علامة رفعه, the sign of it being مرفوع is what? So if we load some notes. نعم أحسنت. So مثنى علامة رفعه is ألف. Is ألف. So it's like here. So اللذان, in this case علامة رفعه is ألف. So when we see كتابان, قلمان, جنتان, then we know that it's مثنى and it's مرفوع. And who can tell me علامة رفع, علامة نصبه is what? So مثنى علامة نصبه is the sign of when it is mansoob. Is yeah. Okay, we'll just write it here. It's easier. نعم. I think last week when we mentioned the ayah, which ayah was it? We mentioned the ayah, قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. And I mentioned that as being the ayatul imtihan. But the ayah I was referring to when I said it's the ayah of imtihan is not that ayah. I mentioned it was قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. The ayah I was referring to of the ayatul, you could say is ayatul imtihan anyway, because it does contain that. But the ayah in my head that I was referring to, which after the lesson it came to my lesson, and then I realized I was talking about the wrong ayah. So the ayah I was referring to as ayatul imtihan was the statement of Allah Allah Azza wa Jal. Was anybody know? which was the statement of Allah, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, is the statement of Allah, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي, say this is my path. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. So the statement which Ibn al-Qayyim and others, they mention, the statement of أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, that they say this statement of أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, say this is my path, أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. He says that this is the heaviest ayah upon the person who calls to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an ayah of imtihan for the person who calls to this ayah, to this statement, أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. As he said, because we see many people, when they give da'wah, that they call to themselves, that they use the da'wah in order to call to themselves and not actually calling to Allah. So أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, as we know that the prophets and messengers, that this was their job and they fulfilled this job completely. And when they gave da'wah to Allah, that they called the people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not to themselves. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. So whoever is involved in da'wah or teaching, that he should memorize this ayah and put it into practice, and it should be an ayah that he constantly returns back to in order to renew his intentions. May Allah make us from those who call to him and not to the da'wah of ourselves. Ameen. أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة. And then obviously the what follows it, على بصيرة, that I call to Allah على بصيرة. So obviously the scholars of tafsir and the scholars in general, that they mention that it's from the conditions of da'wah, that when a person is calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he does على بصيرة, upon clear-sightedness, i.e. upon correct and authentic knowledge. Now, so we carry on with the muthanna. We mentioned al-muthanna, علامة رفعه الألف. وعلامة نصبه ماذا قلتم؟ علامة نصبه الياء. أحسنت. وعلامة جره ماذا؟ As for time's sake, we say علامة جره الياء كذلك. So muthanna, whenever we see muthanna, so for example, we'd say هذان طالبان. هذان طالبان. علامة رفعه الألف. Then we could say رأيت طالبين. طالبين. رأيت طالبين. So I saw I saw two students. علامة نصبه الياء. And then we would say سلمت. سلمت أي قلت السلام عليكم. سلمت على طالبين. علامة جره كذلك الياء. So we see the علامة نصبه and علامة جره, they're both ya. So when we see مثنى and its condition is that it's ya, then obviously, as remember, we look back to see whether it's majroor or whether it's mansoob. And if you've noticed that it has a ya anyway, then you probably be able to recognize what came before it anyway. طيب, so والجنة أي شهد أن الجنة والنار اللتين أخبر الله عنهما. So whoever bears witness that the paradise and the fire, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed عنهما, of the two of them, في كتابه, in his book, ثابتتان, that they are ثابتتان, that they are ثابتتان. So again we have مثنى مرفوع علامة رفعه الألف. لا شك فيهما, and that there is no doubt in the two of them. So why does the Shaykh, why does the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam make a point of paradise and fire? Because as we know that there are people from the ummah, even from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We go back to someone. Okay, there you go. Even from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are people who deny the existence of the paradise and the fire. And there are those who deny, and then we have some that affirm the existence of the paradise and the fire, but they don't affirm that they will last forever, that they will say they will come to an end, which is in opposition of the text of the book and the sunnah. Okay, so let me know when you've completed this so we can move on. Lost. You finished? We're going to move on. If you haven't done it, you can refer back to the video, inshallah. طيب, لا شك فيهما. Then he says, أدخله الله الجنة, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he will enter him into paradise. So if we quickly, carry on there, if you can see it, and we'll go through this. We've been through this many times in the Arabic lessons of the verbs dakhala. So what type of verb in the Arabic language, what type of verb do we usually call dakhala? Or jalasa, or shariba, or kataba, or qara'a? So what I'm referring to is 1, 2, 3. أحسنت. ثلاثي. You understand where we're going with this. So دخل is usually when you take the fi'l فعل. So all verbs are based upon the verb فعل. نعم. So sometimes if you read in many books, sometimes they will refer to the verb as, so we have the fi'l. نعم. So this is a fi'l فعل. And they will say, when talking about verbs, they will say فاء الفعل. فاء الفعل, which مضاف إليه. فاء الفعل, i.e. the fa of the fi'l, i.e. the first letter in the verb. So if we look to this verb here, if I said to you, ما هو فاء الفعل? ما هو فاء الفعل في هذا الفعل? What would your answer be? If you already know it, you don't have to answer. So in this verb here, دخل, what is the فاء الفعل? Yeah, you can just type it, or أحسنت. So the فاء الفعل is the dal, i.e. we're talking about the, so if we look here, the verb فعل, so the first one is fa, second letter is ain, third letter is lam. And when we say عين الفعل in the verb, if we're talking about this verb, then obviously we're referring to the kha. And if we say lam al-fi'li, then we're referring to the lam. So what would, and what we mentioned, this type of verb, as someone mentioned, is called thulathi. Thulathiyun. Why is it called thulathi? No, we say fa'ul fi'l. We be precise what we're talking about. We're talking about af'al, fi'l. So this verb, all of these verbs, they're called thulathi. Why? The answer's in the title. Like Arabic, usually you can work out the meaning because the title does what it says. Yes, so thulathi obviously means from the word thalatha, because it contains thalathatu ahrufin. It contains three letters now. So we have واحد اثنان ثلاثة. دخل. So we would say, for example, دخل محمد. دخل محمد المسجد. Muhammad entered the masjid. دخل الفعل, محمد الفاعل, المسجد مفعول به. Then we come to the verb when we add an alif and we say أدخل. أدخل. So obviously this verb is now called رباعي, i.e. from the word أربع. It's a 4-letter verb. So in this case, when we say أشرب, أدخل, أجلس, etc. So we would say, for example, أدخل محمد ابنه المسجد. So in the first sentence, we have دخل Muhammad al-Masjid. Muhammad entered the masjid. Now we have أدخل محمد ابنه المسجد. نعم. الآن ما معنى الجملة؟ In the first jumla, it's دخل محمد المسجد. Muhammad entered the mosque or the masjid. And now we have أدخل محمد ابنه المسجد. ما معنى الجملة؟ نعم. So now it's Muhammad entered his son المسجد into the mosque or the mosque. Is this understood? So we have dakhala, which means to enter. And then adkhala means to make somebody enter. Anybody think of an ayah where we see the fi'l ruba'i? Okay, so we'll carry on. So he says, أدخله الله الجنة. نعم. So as we know, so the ضمير المتصل who goes back to who? أدخله الله الجنة. So أدخل الفعل، الله الفاعل، الجنة مفعول به. But the who goes back to who? Who does it return back to? يعود إلى من? If we look to the text of the Hadith, so this who here, أدخله الضمير المتصل, who does it go back to? Who does it return to? نعم. So يعود, it goes back to the first statement of من شهد, whoever bears witness. So whoever bears witness to all of this implements it. أدخله الله, Allah will enter him, i.e. man, whoever bears witness to all of this, implements it, acts upon it. أدخل الله الجنة, Allah will enter him into paradise. So when we read this, obviously we read these hadith, we should be thinking as well, pay attention, pay in mind the title of how it ties in with the chapter. Because everything that preceded it was Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the correct Tawheed of the Rububiyyah and the Ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That whoever implements the correct Rububiyyah and the Ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then أدخل الله الجنة, Allah will enter him into paradise. So then he mentions أدخل الله الجنة is جواب الشرط السابق من قوله من شهد. As we mentioned at the beginning, that the man at the beginning of the hadith was shartiyya, that it was conditional. And now we come to the jawab al-shart. So the condition was whoever bears witness and acts upon all of this, that this will be jawab al-shart. This is the reward for the one who bears witness and acts upon that. أدخل الله الجنة على ما كان من العمل. So we come to the statement ما كان من العمل. So upon whatever he has by way of actions, i.e., so he mentions, so we'll explain what يحتمل معنيين. So this statement, it has two meanings. Is الأول أدخله الله الجنة وإن كان مقصرا. So he says Allah will enter him into paradise. وإن كان مقصرا, even if he is مقصر. So مقصر obviously means that he is. Who can tell me what the word مقصر means? قصر يقصر. نعم. So مقصر is someone who falls short. And then he explains what it means here. So وإن كان, so even if he is, so even if he is مقصر. So why is مقصر? Why is it mansub? Why is it مقصرا and not مقصر? So again, we look to what came before it, and it will give us. So we look back. This is mansub. Everyone's saying ism kana. But if we remember, inna wa akhawatuha تنصب الاسم وترفع الخبر. كان وأخواتها ترفع الاسم وتنصب الخبر. So كان and its likes, they do the opposite of inna. So كان is different to inna. So here, obviously, مقصرا is the khabar of كان. وإن كان مقصرا. So it's خبر كان. وله ذنوب. And so even if he falls short, وله ذنوب, and he has sins. لأن الموحدة, and that is because the muwahid, i.e. the person of Tawheed, الذي يوحد الله, لا بد من دخول الجنة. It is a must that he enters paradise. وإن كان مقصرا, even if he is deficient and he has sins. الثاني, he mentions أدخله الله الجنة, that Allah will enter him into paradise. وتكون منزلته فيها على حسب عمله, that Allah will enter him into paradise, and his level, i.e. the person al-muwahid, فيها, i.e. في الجنة, على حسب عمله, will be decided upon his amal. i.e. so if he was muqassir, then he will be in a lower part of the paradise. And that's how it goes. So hasbu amal, then the more actions he has, the higher he is raised in paradise. Shaykh ibn Baz, rahimahullah, in his explanation of this statement, ala ma kana min al-amal, he mentions, he goes into a little bit more detail, and he mentions, أي على ما عنده من صلاح وفساد. أي, no matter, so Allah will enter him into paradise no matter what he has by way of actions. He says, i.e., whatever he has from salahin, i.e., righteous actions, or fasadin, or sins. إذ قالها عن إخلاص وإيمان. That if he said it, i.e., the statement of whatever preceded it, what we've been discussing, if he said it with ikhlas and iman, that he said it sincerely and believing in it and implementing it. And he says, but this entering into paradise, when it mentions in the hadith that Allah will enter him into paradise, that this entrance of him may be at the beginning. He will enter paradise ibtida'an, yadkhulu ibtida'an idha mata ala tawbah. That he will enter paradise if he died in a state of repentance, that he repented from his sins before he died, then he will enter paradise. وَعَمِلَ وَعَمَلٌ صَالِحٌ وَصِدْقٌ. And he entered it, and he performed righteous actions, and he was sincere and truthful. And he says, وَقَدْ يَكُونَ بَعْدَمَا يَبْتَلِي بِهِ مِنْ جَزَاءِ السَّيِّئَاتِ وَالْمَعَاصِي. And he says, and this could be after he is tried by way of a reward for his evil deeds and his sins, i.e., that he will enter paradise, but first he will be put to trial because of the sins and the evil deeds that he committed. And he says, وَبَعْدَمَا, and he says, and after he is purified by the fire. وَيُعَذَّبْ فِيهَا, so he is punished in the fire. ثُمَّ مَصِيرَهُ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ, and he says, and then his final destination will be paradise. And he says, so whoever أَدَّى هَذِهِ الشَّهَادَاتِ, so whoever implements these testimonies, what we were talking about in the hadith, and he implemented them, then he will enter paradise at the beginning stage. So he won't be punished in the fire, that he will enter paradise straight away. And he says, but if he died upon ma'asi, then and then he mentions the point of the principle of Ahl Sunnah, فَهُوَ تَحْتَ مَشِيئَةِ اللَّهِ, then he is under the will of Allah. So when we hear the term تَحْتَ مَشِيئَةِ اللَّهِ, then what statement follows it? Anybody mention the statement? We say فإنه فهو تحت مشيئة الله. And then what always follows is إن شاء عذبه. If he wills, so if a person is under the will of Allah, so this is an important principle that the Ahl Sunnah mention, particularly with people who die upon major sins, that they don't excommunicate, they don't make takfir of them like the Khawarij and other people of Ahlul Bid'ah by saying that he is kafir and he will enter the fire and he will never come out of the fire. No, the Ahl Sunnah, they say huwa tahta mashi'atillah, that he is under the will of Allah. In sha'a adhabahu. If he wills, he will punish him. Wa in sha'a adkhalahu Allahu al-jannah. And if Allah wills, he will enter the paradise, or he will enter him into paradise. So we ask Allah to make us from those who enter paradise straight away without any hisab or punishment. So he says أخرجاه أي رواه أو روى هذا الحديث البخاري ومسلم في صحيحيهما اللذين هما أصح الكتب بعد القرآن. So again he mentions أخرجاه. So usually when we hear the أخرجاه, so this verb, which verb is this? Is it thulathi or is it ruba'i, as we mentioned? Because we always hear أخرجه البخاري ومسلم. So the verb, نعم, so أخرجه is ruba'i. أخرجه. Okay, so what does the statement أخرجاه? Why is there an alif after أخرجه? Why is there an alif after أخرجه? No, because it's muthanna. So the verb is muthanna. Okay, so let's give an example of that. So for example, we would say dakhala. Dakhala is mufrad. We know dakhala is mufrad. And then muthanna of dakhala is dakhala. So we would say, for example, Muhammadun wa Yasirun dakhala al-masjida. Dakhala al-masjida. That Muhammad and Yasir entered the masjid. So because they're two, we say dakhala. It's permissible to say dakhalu, to use plural for muthanna also. So Muhammadun wa Yasirun dakhala al-masjid. So again, so akhraja is mufrad, and then muthanna is akhraja. And as a side point, so many people, so dakhala, muthanna, so when we have muthanna, dakhala, and it's mu'annath, so we would say dakhalat. Dakhalat Aishatu ad-dukkan. Aisha entered the dukkan. So how would we say Aishatu wa Khadijatu? How would we say, we'd use the word dakhalat for Aisha and Khadija as muthanna? You'd be surprised. Many people don't know this. La. So دخلنا, that is جمع, that's plural. You said دخلنا is plural. أحسنتي. So we say دخلتا, دخلتا. So we would say عائشة وخديجة دخلتا المسجد, دخلتا المسجد. جيد. So the أخرج, the ha here makes the verb مثنى. And they are none other than Al-Bukhari wa Muslimun. So usually when we see hadith and it's plural, أخرجاه, then automatically it refers back to Bukhari and Muslim. And then there's others like أخرجه Al-Arba'. Then sometimes we hear that it has been reported by Al-Arba', by the four, sometimes Al-Khamsa. And we'll go for that another time, who they refer to when they say the four, the five, or the six. أي رواح. So the who, again in the verb, the who, الضمير المتصل, who does it go back to? What does the who go back to in the verb? So it's important we know. It shows that we're switched on when we know what all of the letters are referring to. And this is basic stuff that all of us should know, but you'd be surprised how many people don't understand the small basics, because many people, they skip صغير العلم, the what is called the صغير العلم, the lesser knowledge, and they try to go straight to the greater knowledge. And then because they skipped the صغير العلم, that they have many faults in the كبير العلم. نعم. So yeah, أحسنت. So the who goes back to the al-hadith. أخرجاه أي هذا الحديث. أي روى هذا الحديث, it mentions here. اللذين. So this اللذين, is it mansoob or is it marfu'? Or is it majroor? And here صحيحيهما. So before that, let's focus on this. في صحيحيهما. Okay, صحيحي, what is this word? Is it mufrad? Is it muthanna? Or is it jam'? Excellent. So صحيحي, it is muthanna. So this muthanna, it's muthanna. صحيحين. طيب أين الدال? So where is the dal gone? It's supposed to be صحيحين, في صحيحين. So where is the dal gone? The dal of the verb of the word صحيحي. صحيحين. It should be صحيحين. So where's the noon? أين النون? So we're learning a lot about muthanna in today's lesson. But it's very important. I don't think we've those of you who are doing Arabic, we haven't really touched upon this in detail yet. Now we're talking about sahihain. And we're asking, if we look at the word fi sahihayhima, the noon of the word sahihaini is missing. Where has it gone? Where has the noon gone? No. So The simple answer is تحذف النون عند الإضافة. So this word here, صحيحيهما, the word صحيحي is مضاف, هما is مضاف إليه. So when مثنى is مضاف, the noon of the مثنى is taken away. The noon of the مثنى is taken away when it becomes مضاف. And that's the simple answer. So for example, if we just make it a simple sentence, we say كتابان. كتابان. نعم, it's مثنى, means two books. So when we want to make this kitaban, and then we have the name Muhammad. So if we want to make kitaban and Muhammad, if we want to join them together in order to say Muhammad's two books, we say kitaba, we take away the noon and we say Muhammadin. Kitaba Muhammadin. So we say kitaba is mudaf, علامة, أو we say مضاف مرفوع, علامة رفعه الألف, وتحذف النون عند الإضافة, ومحمد مضاف إليه. So whenever مثنى is مضاف, now whether it's masculine or feminine, we take away the noon. And the same goes for جمع مذكر سالم. So for example, and we'll come to this in our Arabic lessons. So for example, if we say مسلمون, نعم, Muslims. So it's جمع مذكر سالم. And this is only for جمع مذكر سالم, by the way, with regards to the plurals. مسلمون. And then we have the country, Al-Hind. And if we want to make them both مضاف and مضاف إليه, we say مسلمو الهندي. So مسلمو is مرفوع, علامة رفعه الواو, وتحذف النون عند الإضافة. Is that understood? So in the statement, في صحيحيهما, صحيحي is مجرور بفاء أو بفي, بحرف الجر في, علامة جره ياء, هما is مضاف إليه. So اللذين is still it's مجرور because of the في also. علامة جره ياء. هما, and it says اللذين, which both of them, هما, they are, أي البخاري ومسلم, أصح. أصح is what? What do we call أصح in Arabic? اسم تفضيل. نعم, like أفضل, أحسن. أصح from the word صحيح. Say أصح, صحيح means, obviously it means authentic in this regard. أصح is اسم تفضيل, the most authentic. أصح الكتب, they are the most authentic books. بعد القرآن, after the Quran. So I hope by way of this, that we have benefited from the hadith, from its meaning, and from going through the Arabic of the hadith as much as we can handle. نعم. فهل من سؤال? Any questions? Are we going through it too slow, or is the pace that we're doing it, is it suitable?
Yeah, take 1,000, give me 400.
But I don't think, as I said, I don't think we're in any rush.
400.
Brother Yasir, he hasn't started the text yet.
Give me.
So
How much does he have?
we are way ahead
He said it's 300.
the second lesson.
Oh, yeah. Give me
Alhamdulillah, good.
800. I will give him 400 and collect 500.
Tayyib, so alhamdulillah, so if we're going at a slow pace, those who, you know, have experience with the Arabic language, then inshallah, just serve as a reminder. Sorry, I didn't have my speaker on. If I heard the mic, yeah, I can turn people's mics off and their cameras off. So sometimes brothers, they switch their mics on by accident, and sometimes people switch their cameras on by accident. So must pay attention. Yeah, so for those who already know, then sometimes it's just a good reminder. And as we said, that's what knowledge is. We don't learn something and then put it to the side and that's it. We learn things and we always go back to them. And this is, as we keep mentioning, the ulama, that they are humble and they always teach. They will constantly teach the same books, even if those books are easy. And that we don't, alhamdulillah, with knowledge, we don't use our knowledge to gain any status or anything over over our brothers and our sisters. That knowledge is something you should use personally for yourself to better yourself and to enlighten yourself more about who your Lord is and the religion of Islam. And those who don't know that which we know, then we just simply teach them. We don't look down on them. We just simply teach them. You remain humble. As it's known that sometimes Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, that his students would say, sometimes he was answered the simplest, he was asked the simplest of questions with regards to wudu, etc. And they would say sometimes, so the Shaykh would, he would be known previously to answer the question about, about certain things with regards to simple affairs. And they would say sometimes he would be asked the same question later on, and he would say that he doesn't know. And he would say, Allah knows best. So his students said that they took from that he was trying to cultivate his students upon saying, I don't know. Trying to show them that it's good, it's permissible to say, I don't know. And because they were like simple questions that all the students generally knew, that they were, that it caused no harm. So obviously if it was a difficult question, he would have answered it. But he was cultivating his students upon saying, I don't know. That it's okay to say you don't know. That we shouldn't be saying, if someone asks a question and you say, I don't know that, but what I do know is, and then you start to talk about something else. No, you just say, I don't know, that's it, finished. Naam. Jazakumullahu khairan. Hal min su'al? Any just clarifications, anything I missed out? Then feel free. All similar. Naam, ahsanti. As the sister points out, Kitab al Tawhid, Ajurumiyya, Arabic classes, they are all similar and alhamdulillah benefiting a lot with the explanations. And it is not confusing, they're all are similar to each other and it feels like the same book and different chapters. That is, Naam, you're right. And that's the intention. The intention is from the brothers is to teach people Arabic. We have lessons, alhamdulillah, on Tawheed and Aqeedah, etc. But the main focus is the focus of teaching as the Salaf taught. That's it. As we know that the famous narration of Imam Ahmad, when a man brought his son to study under Imam Ahmad, and he asked, does he know Arabic language? And he said no. So he said, so go away and teach him Arabic. So they went away, taught him Arabic, and then he kept doing this until the students had learned the things that he's supposed to have learned before actually studying with the scholar. So the intentions is to teach people Arabic so that you are self-sufficient and reliant, that you can go back to the source yourself and you can go directly to the book and the sunnah. You can return back to the scholars rather than just being stagnant and reliant upon just the few English books. So, and then even when we're going through the books, the texts, other than the Arabic language, that we are focusing even in these lessons on the Arabic language. As if you keep learning like this, you will find yourself building up and your knowledge will be stable. You learn everything in Arabic and it's directly from the source, that your knowledge will be stable. Now, as I myself, when I first became Muslim, sorry for dragging on, that our teacher, Abu Talha Dawood ibn Burbank, rahimahullah, that when I first became Muslim, you know, you read from loads of different books or you listen to these certain lectures, etc. And I was always asking him questions. What about this? What about this? What about this? And then one day he said to me, he said, can I give you some advice? And I said, sure. So I wasn't even a Muslim for a year. And he said to me, forget, he goes, I'll give you some advice that I was given when I was like you. And he said, I said, okay. And he said, forget everything that you've learned. And I was shocked. He goes, forget everything that you learned previously and start again. And I said, what do you mean? He said, start again. I learn everything properly with its proofs. And that was one of the best advices that I ever received. Start again, learn everything. It doesn't mean like, obviously, don't discard all your knowledge of Tawheed, etc. But start it again from the beginning and learn everything properly with its proofs. So then you won't be asking constant questions, that you know that you're certain of your knowledge. Why? Because I know it's from Bukhari, I know it's from Muslim, I know this scholar said it, I know Allah said it in the book and which surah, etc. So that's the best way. Rahmatullahi alayhi. طيب جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا.